Hi there, Chris from TotallyEV, and here I'm doing a dedicated audio review of the new Tesla Model Y. If you want a detailed review of the vehicle itself, make sure you check it up on your pop-up banner or following the links down in the description below or the pinned comments. Now, the outgoing Tesla Model Y had 7 speakers, at least if you lived in the US and went for the rear-wheel drive configuration, and then a 14-speaker configuration, or technically 15 back in the days, for the all-wheel drive model. This now, however, has been upgraded to 9 speakers in the rear-wheel drive vehicles, and yes, that is globally, or 16 speakers in the all-wheel drive models. Now, to be more specific, in the rear-wheel drive vehicles, you have got 3 100mm mid-range drivers within the dashboard. You then have got a singular 25mm tweeter that's found within the mirror triangles, and then a singular 200mm woofer that's found within the front doors. Then to complete the 9-speaker system, you have got 100mm mid-range drivers that are found within the rear doors. Now, in the 16-speaker configuration, which we have on review, in other words, in the all-wheel drive vehicles, you'll have the same 3 100mm mid-range drivers that are found within the dashboard, the 25mm tweeters that are found within the mirror triangles, but then you have got 60mm mid-range drivers that are found within the front doors, and then further down you have got 2 200mm dual woofers, which is something that you'll find also in the Tesla Model 3. And indeed, this is the biggest difference between the outgoing Tesla Model Y. As for the rear, you have got those 100mm mid-range drivers that are found within the rear doors, and then you've also got 100mm mid-range drivers that are found towards the boot. Now, this is actually within acoustically transparent textile look, and therefore means that unlike the outgoing Tesla Model Y, you can no longer see the speaker grills. So a nice little touch by the manufacturer. Finally, to complete the 16-speaker audio system, you've got a subwoofer in the boot. Now, for you to tinker around with the audio drivers, you want to navigate on the audio settings tab that can be found via the 15.4-inch display. And here I've added 1 notch to subwoofer, 0.5 decibels to bass, and then 0.5 decibels to the top end treble. I've also taken 1 notch off the standard mode preset in terms of immersive sound and left the balance in terms of its center position. Of course, these are my subjective settings, but I actually found this to provide the best sort of audio reproduction. And I'll be touching upon why, specifically when it comes to the immersive sound, further down in this review. Now, for you to connect up to the infotainment system, it's disappointing that you've only got the SBC and AAC codecs over Bluetooth. That is, of course, if you're using your smartphone. Thankfully, there is means of actually getting higher quality playback by using the built-in streaming apps, such as the likes of Tidal or YouTube Music. Furthermore, you have also got USB playback, which can be achieved via the USB port that's found within the glove box. This will allow you to play higher res audio files, which will certainly be appreciated by audiophiles alike, because a lot of its competitors don't allow you any sort of USB playback. Now, with that out of the way, let's talk about cabin noise. And here the objective measurements will be on your screen. Now, for those people who are subscribed and have watched some of my other audio reviews, you will be able to realize that these numbers aren't exactly something to shout about. I'm highlighting this because Tesla claimed that you've got 360 acoustically treated glass. You've actually got hardware, which is actually trying to suppress the exterior noise. And this effectively tries to give you 22% of reduction within the cabin. At least this is according to Tesla's marketing. However, from my own subjective opinion and also my objective tests, I found that the noise wasn't exactly all that different from the outgoing Tesla Model Y. It certainly doesn't compete with some of its key competitors that provide you an even more serene interior cabin. Now, with that said, this vehicle was fitted with the optional 20-inch wheels instead, in comparison to the smaller 19-inch wheels that come across the entire trim range. This is something that you might want to consider leaving, in other words, not upgrading to the 20-inch alloys, because you'll undoubtedly get lower cabin noise on the smaller rims. Now, with that out of the way, let's get on to an audio demo. I'll be placing the camera and the microphone in a few different locations within the cabin and playing back a track. It's from Priya J and it's titled Like Me.
See
So I appreciate an audio demo over YouTube is not quite ideal, but I thought I'd provide it as it gives you a taster as to what to expect. Now, in terms of my own subjective opinion, as someone who's reviewed over 800 audio-related devices, including over 130 in-car audio systems, I'll say that the Tesla Model Y 16-speaker audio system that's found in the all-wheel drive vehicles is even better than the older generation model and among one of the best out there on the market. Now, let me explain why. First off, in terms of the overall sub-bass reproduction, in other words, that low-end rumble that you'll come to expect in bass-orientated tracks, well, it's certainly there thanks to the inclusion of the subwoofer that's found in the boot. Now, don't get mistaken, it's not going to quite compete with the top-tier flagship audio systems that are out there on the market. For example, the one that comes to mind is the BMW i7 Baron & Wilkin system that actually does a tremendous job, including the name audio system that's found in certain Bentley vehicles. The subwoofer of those vehicles just provides even better low-end extension. Nonetheless, I do think the vast majority of consumers sitting in the Model Y will actually be pleasantly surprised. Given the fact that you've also got a dedicated subwoofer control, it allows you to really bring out that sub-bass if you do want it. Now, as for the mid-bass, I actually find that it's really heart-pounding, and this is also due to the fact that you have got those dual woofers that are found within the front doors. Indeed, very much like the new Tesla Model 3, there's an improvement from the older generation models, and therefore you've got even better bass presence. Now, in the outgoing Tesla Model Y, I actually reduced the bass by a few notches, but in this respect, I felt I should add a few notches to it, because here it just gave a little bit of that extra hearty slam. Indeed, over here, the mid-bass impact is pretty much done to perfection, both in terms of the overall control that you're getting and also the quantity. Of course, that is subjective because you can EQ it if you so wish. Now, given the overall bass presence that you've got, you might expect quite a pushback mid-range, but thankfully, that's not the case. Indeed, in comparison to the outgoing Tesla Model Y, it's pretty much near on identical, in that it's absolutely flawless. Not only in terms of the lower mids, but also the upper mids. Both male and female vocals come out to the foreground and therefore feel really engaging to listen to. Unlike the vast majority of its competitors, let alone far more expensive alternatives out there with premium audio systems as such, the Tesla Model Y makes them look absolutely poor. Indeed, the mid-range reproduction of this audio system is fantastic, and in this respect, I actually didn't add any sort of notches across the entire mid-range tones because I felt it was actually done to perfection. Now, as for the high-end extension, it's actually done pretty well, at least at the front of the cabin, and this is due to the fact that you've got those dedicated tweeters. And that's the same couldn't be quite said at the rear of the cabin because you have not got those 25mm tweeters, which would have been a nice addition within the Tesla Model Y because it would add to the extra dynamism for those who are sat at the back. Nonetheless, over here I added 0.5 decibels via the Treble EQ in order to get a little bit of that extra toe tapping feeling without it sounding too harsh or sibilant, and therefore meant that I didn't have any sort of ear fatigue even at louder volumes. Now, in terms of what really stands out for me more than anything, namely if you compare it to some of its key competitors, is its overall soundstage reproduction. See, here you have got good sort of width and depth, and despite the omission of extra audio drivers within the rear doors, you have got those speakers that are found all the way at the boot. And yes, it's not exactly the parcel shelf, but it's all the way at the back where the boot lid is. Those extra audio drivers add to the extra amount of immersion that you get, and given the fact that you've got plenty of audio drivers at the front of the cabin, those who are sat at the front will feel that it's actually pretty engaging. In terms of the immersive slider, I actually added it one notch off the center position because here it allows me to get a little bit of that extra dynamism without affecting the overall mid-range accuracy, which is something that is often the case when it comes to adding extra surround sound options. And in this respect, the same could be said about the Tesla audio system, because if you were to go ham on the immersive slider, then you'll find that you've got a somewhat fishbowl effect, and therefore the mids are a bit too drowned out. Of course, this can be quite subjective, but in my opinion, I just feel that taking one notch off the center position gives you kind of the best of both worlds. Now, in terms of the overall instrument separation, it's done to perfection, specifically at the front of the cabin due to the vast array of audio drivers that you have, and furthermore, the fact that you have got those extra audio drivers at the rear of the cabin mean that the overall audio experience is actually really good. Ultimately, what I'm trying to convey over here is that Tesla has really upped the ante when it comes to the overall audio prowess of the Tesla Model Y, when it didn't really have to because the older generation model was class leading in its own right. It's now just been dethroned by the new Tesla Model Y, thanks to the dual woofers that are found within the front doors. And given this, it easily gets TotallyEV's Audio Excellence Award. Now, if you're umming and ahhing between the rear-wheel drive and the all-wheel drive models, well, do consider those extra audio drivers that are found within the all-wheel drive vehicles will provide you far better audio prowess. It's not to say that the rear-wheel drive vehicle is going to be quite disappointing, but the omission of a subwoofer, for example, and the extra audio drivers that you found within the front doors will certainly hamper the overall audio experience. So therefore, that extra bit of premium for the all-wheel drive vehicle, in my opinion, is certainly worth it, be it for the other traits that you have got within the vehicle, for example, extra performance, or of course, when it comes to the overall audio system. Now, I'd be curious to know what you make of the new Tesla Model Y's audio system down in the comment section below, and if you would pick the rear-wheel drive or the all-wheel drive vehicle, be it for the audio system alone. Now, if you have enjoyed this detailed independent review, definitely do consider dropping a like, subscribing, and hitting that bell notification, all of which would be greatly appreciated. As such, I've been Chris from TotallyEV, and I'll hopefully see you next one. Take care of yourselves, and goodbye.